All right, welcome back to our fourth episode of our new Universe Marvel Comics podcast. And joining us as usual, I have myself, Andy Roback, and our good friend.
Steve Woodcock.
All right, just a couple of guys that are up to no good reading new Universe comics in our neighborhood, right? I think I plagiarized that. Sorry.
Oh, it's straight off the spinner rack. It's the new universe.
All right, we'll save that one for next time. You can one up my introduction. All right, so today we've got our last two issues of the issue ones. So our whole peek at the new universe will be complete with Justice issue one and then DP7 issue one. So we'll start off with Justice. So Justice is our title character as well. On our cover, we got a nice little scene of Justice, who of course is sporting a white to silver mullet. It's got a nice flat top, but long in the back. He's got a trench coat, high boots, white tights, and a blue shirt. That definitely looks kind of future-y with a nice yellow and orange lightning bolt kind of pattern. And it looks like he's menacing, a character we will find out later, the drug dealer in the park.
He looks, quite villainous actually in the cover.
Oh yeah.
Are you hero or villain?
Glowing red eyes. Yeah. So this one opens a little rough. So first panel, we're in Alphabet City, which is in fact a part of Manhattan. And our unfortunate first victim, and a lot of these new universe issues seem to start with a death. Well, I guess we're not 100% sure she's dead, but we have the bloodied and knocked out in a pile of groceries on the dirty street corner, Eudora Simpson, black female, age 71, seamstress, retired. As we introduced to three goons who stole her Social Security money, two of which have names. So we have Pink, the crazy white guy who stole cookies along with the money and is real excited about making bad jokes about that. And who's the other guy? Slits, a black
Slits with the sunglasses.
Yeah, so he's got some weird futuristic sunglasses. Think LeVar Burton, Star Trek Next Generation kind, and a mohawk. And then another nameless guy who doesn't really get much going for him, and I don't think he ever gets a name.
Holmes, I think.
I couldn't tell if he was calling him Home or if that's his name or just a nickname.
Yeah.
So we open with a death and some goons, and he's trying to talk down Pink, our crazy white guy who's obsessed with cookies. So they retreat into a building to kind of see what their stash is. And so then we get our title page, Brave New World. So this is Archie Goodwin as our writer and also the creator. So he came up with the concept for this one. We got a team of artists, which is interesting for the first issue. Jeff Isherwood, Joe Del Bito, and Jack Fury, which has got to be a pen name. I could not find anything on Jack Fury.
Wow. I saw the cover artist says Isherwood. So
yeah. So there was no obvious change in art style. So maybe they worked together on this one. I'm not really sure.
And I mean, artists can be like a penciler, inker, both.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we don't know, but it has a letterer and a colorist. So yeah, maybe. Not sure how they all teamed up on this one. None of the writers I could find had much of a huge comics resume, but at least some work as far as things go. All right, well, back to our issue. So our title page also is a big full panel spread of our goons, thugs, sorting through the poor old woman's purse and getting excited about how many $20 bills there are. But in the background, in the dark, in his trench coat, we see our Justice character kind of hanging back. He just snuck in behind them, essentially. So he walks in, They catch him coming down the stairs. Basically, he just basically walks straight up to them. They make fun of his or they like his coat, but make fun that he's wearing it in the middle of July, which is sort of a reoccurring theme that he sort of stands out and is a little odd, except he's in New York City. They're trying to figure out if he's police or not. We get a nice panel of his glowing red eyes. So again, he doesn't seem very heroic. It's not busting in, telling these guys, you're going to pay for your crimes, or, we're taking you to jail. He's basically just stalks up to them and stares at them menacingly, which is kind of cool, but it's an angry start. All right, so here we start to get a look at his powers. So there's a nice image where we see what Justice sees. So just outlines of all of the characters, and they're white, and they all have kind of like a, energy splash, almost looks like a paint splatter of green. So this is him reading the auras of the bad guys. So we learn a little more about this later, but green is for bad guys. I'm trying to keep track as we go.
Yeah, I don't see anything about the shape of the designs that he sees. It's just this sort of glowing nebula inside each of them. So
yeah, there are some distinct shape patterns, but yeah, we don't have any clue of whether that means anything or just whatever the artist felt like drawing at any given moment. So a nice little important thing, so Slits, the bad guy, pulls off his shades and staring down Justice. He pulls out a little switchblade, and then basically just all three of them get blasted. But since he pulled off those shades, they go flying and are undamaged as the three criminals get vaporized. They're quite literally turned to ashes.
yeah, we see the red cone of something, fire, and then it's just pile of ash on the floor.
Yep. And then his first and only line so far is "I am justice," as he's disintegrating these folks with his hand. So yeah, just shoots a beam of power out of his right hand. So we've got two of Justice's powers locked down now. He's got hand laser, and he can see evil auras. Right. So I like this next page. So this is him thinking, the world is alien, my purpose is not, and now I need not wait for darkness to move outdoors into its harsh and brutal light. Right. So he's not from around here, though we don't really know where yet. He's just kind of like the Terminator, right? He just shows up, looks kind of strange, runs into some punks, kills them. This is the Terminator. And actually in that, page 5, after he's grabbing the shades, I see a poster up on the wall, which looks a lot like Arnold in the Terminator with some sunglasses, kind of really tiny there. So I like that reference. I'm guessing that's what that is.
Possible. I also I haven't absorbed enough to converse, to explore, to attempt to learn where I am and who has brought me here. He's very lost, and he maybe didn't even know how to communicate. He somehow absorbed that.
Yeah. So yeah, it is still pretty mysterious. We don't really have a name yet, other than he calls himself Justice. It's just kind of an interesting opener for him. So then we move on to a cliffside mansion in Baja, California. And so we get another mysterious character. So he says he's alive here, and we have sort of a purple silhouette almost of a guy in like a Japanese hot tub, steam. So we really don't get a look at him at all. But he says, "Forget the drink, Lorenzo. Get my son on the phone." Scrambled line, right? So we go quickly to his son, who is equal parts evil, heartless corporate guy and apparently alien mastermind, right? So we presume this is the son, and he has a long conversation, kind of talking about their business. The Conquest Dynamics is the name, and he is apparently Mr. Conquest. I don't know if we got a. I didn't catch a first name for Mr. Conquest.
Oh, Damon. Well, Damon is the young one in the boardroom, and
Thank
the
you.
other one is just his father now. I think they don't have a.
Yeah, so the father's still mysterious, but poor Damon is torturing some corporate lackey who disappointed him, and he kind of like basically seems like he's making fun of him and convinces him the only way he's going to keep his job is if he, yeah, Yakuza style chops off his finger, and he does. So again, you know, they don't show too much close up of the poor guy whacking his pinky off. But we do
Good
get
shadow in the back.
there's a nice shadow in the back. We do get him kind of grimacing in pain, and a tissue wrapped bloody stump finger. So again, this one's a lot more adult.
Yeah, so this reminded me, like, there was the 80s business culture, and also a lot of the Japanese, as the real business masterminds. And so you have to compete with the Japanese and take the business philosophy from them and stuff. And so I'm not sure if he's really applying it or he's just telling this guy to do it.
It seems like he's just messing with him, really. So we do get kind of an important tidbit at the end, as so he's basically, he's talking with his father, and we get some idea that like they know of Justice, right? And they were actually trying to kill him somehow long distance. And so the white event gets mentioned, and they're wondering whether or not like their attempt to kill him plus the white event somehow combined to magically, bring him back here, like instead of, leaving him wherever he was and offing him. And in fact, he gets sort of drawn back to New York City, right where they're at, as sort of a unhappy accident for them. But the son takes it as his job to then presumably hunt down and kill our Justice character. Says, and they think he'll have memory loss, disorientation, right? He'll be unsubtle, he'll be vulnerable, right? And clearly it was unsubtle, right? He just walks up and starts blasting people. So he's not hiding, but he doesn't know that he has to.
Yeah, and he says, "Believe me, I know."
Yeah,
what it's going to be like for him. So
right. So
yeah, definitely you get the feeling these guys are all part of the backstory here we haven't heard yet. So.
Yeah, and then come the pretzels. Right. So we cut back to Justice.
Another very Latino character. Hey, Essay.
Right. Yeah.
Big hombre like you.
Every comic needs a Latino street pretzel guy. It's just part of every comics universe. Right. So get a little bit more of Justice in action, and he strolls by, catches a whiff of pretzels, which are sometimes drawn rounded and sometimes drawn geometric angles, which for some reason stands out to me. But he's got his cool shades now. He grabs one, talks about, or just sort of talking about himself a little bit. I'm a warrior and I serve the cause of justice. There's part of me that feels this should be enough, kind of thing. But he just basically steals a pretzel as he's walking on by, and the sassy Hispanic pretzel salesman guy takes it back. Then of course he runs straight into a woman who's harassing her drug pusher, right?
I guess I first thought she was a prostitute and talking to her pimp, but maybe both.
She's dressed prostitute. She's got the bread. Snap, you're gonna take care of me, right? So she's got the money, and Snap is the drug dealer that she's trying to get the drugs from. We get a look at a new aura color as the pimp / drug dealer / guy with a hat has got that green aura that we had before, the bad guy aura, but the woman who just ran into Justice has a blue aura with sort of a yellow core in the middle too. So blue, maybe not so bad. It helps to learn this because although he doesn't say too much about it, he doesn't vaporize her.
The Snap really looks like he stepped out of the 50s, possibly the 30s. The hat is really, and the suit really don't add up to drug dealer, and even in the 80s. So
and he's given Justice a hard time for the big long trench coat, but yeah, he's wearing a full coat suit hat combo too. So I don't know where he gets off of that. But I like that he has a goon waiting in the wing. So so the girl bumped into Justice, who's just kind of staring at them using his aura sensing powers. But the drug dealer doesn't like that, so he calls out his buddy Regis. Right, I like to think Philbin, but maybe he's too buff for Regis Philbin. He's basically just lurking.
An early role, largely uncredited, but
just how could there be more than one Regis? Who basically just sneaks up behind him and puts him in a chokehold. Justice really is not almost unfazed. He makes a quick look of distress, but then he's kind of grim, kind of smiling, and flips him over his head and drops him on his head and makes short work of Regis.
So he does it with no powers. It's just his warrior's training, I guess. Yeah. And he notes that there isn't time to properly judge him. Just put him beyond interference. So he's just trying to knock the guy out, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good addition, right? So he's basically just eyeballing everybody, right? So where's all the evil, and they best watch out. But it does take him a minute, and he does have to take off his shades now to use his aura sensing power. So yeah, drops Regis on his head with a rack, WRAK sound effect. The drug dealer panics, threatens to crush the girl's head. So he's got her in a chokehold and threatening her with a rock, of all things, right? So a lot of low-tech villainry here.
Yeah,
I didn't mention it, but
he's got a rock in his hand. He's gonna just clobber a girl that he's holding. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a weak. I mean, if he was smart, maybe he wouldn't have to sell the drugs, right? But we get a look at Justice's third power as he shoots kind of a series of squares out of his hand. I'm not sure if that's the artist effect or if he's shooting multiple, but he uses his shield fired from his left hand. So it's kind of like a blunt force, like instead of vaporizing him, just knocks the hand away. And the drug dealer's panicking. He's like, "Oh, I didn't mean it. I'm not, if you really want to find the bad guys, go check out the factory," which was also name dropped by the three goons in the beginning. He's crying and complaining and saying it's not even real drugs. I just pretend, and scamming people, and it's fake. Justice kind of walks off, but ends up basically turning and vaporizing our drug dealer again. So I kept a kill count on this one. So
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Did you?
Well, I went back to Merc. I'll tell you about that later, but yeah.
Nice. So there's a halfway decent body count here. I'll be curious to see how we stack up against Merc.
It's the Justice, I'll say right now, kills most of the people himself.
Yes.
In Merc, people are dying all over the place, but Merc himself does not kill that many. Justice is but the vast majority of the people we're going to see killed here.
Yeah, Mark Hazard's more of a softie. Yeah, even if for bad aura, he might let you live. Justice is clearly not going to let anyone live.
Confirms for me that in this world as my own, men may lie, but their auras don't.
Yeah. But then he gets the pretzel.
He does get the pretzel. Yeah, you can kind of see Regis on the ground with a pool of blood maybe under him. The girl is getting help from someone. So
it's their second person with a pool of blood. It's rough. All right, so we're almost at the halfway point. Mark is taken out a set of goons and a drug dealer. He's zeroed in on the factory. And that's where we're headed next, right? So we get introduced to some more characters, some police officers. So we have Rebecca Chambers, or Becky, being driven by, I love this name, Hoyt Pittman. And
I mean,
yeah,
you know, they couldn't have tried to stick the word pit into more things, but if they'd have, you know, done it on purpose, like, that Knights wasn't the only dress pit. Don't forget your Hoyt Pittman, hardest nosed FBI agent, since someone I had to look up on Wikipedia.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So she sort of gets introduced, and we don't see that much Hoyt Pittman, but he seems like he's kind of like the easygoing but straight-laced, you know, super cop kind of guy. That's when I play it by the numbers, maybe.
So let me say the factory is an interesting scene. It's kind of Studio 54, I guess, with some of Warhol's factory, which was his like art studio, but also I guess a lot of drugged out celebrities hung out there too. But I'm guessing it was mostly like an idea of Studio 54, this sort of popular, glamorous place with some sketchy stuff going on upstairs.
Yeah, and they do some nice work on it. I mean, it doesn't look like much on the outside. It looks like kind of like a brick factory. On the inside, there's a nice scene where everything's kind of black, but with color outlines of all the kind of like factory rigging and hooks and cranes, and you know, of course, a nice disco ball and some platforms that look like gears, and a whole bunch of people in, you know, dance mode as far as things go. But yeah, so what we're getting the impression of here in the story is Rebecca Chambers is undercover, and she's got to go into the factory and kind of make one last check before they bust the guys for selling drugs, presumably, or maybe other horrible things. There's a lot of criminal, corrupt bad guys in this one.
And I guess there's a Jean Paul is
yes,
undercover already.
Yeah, our undercover, our traitor, our double agent, John Paul. He's not going to make it to issue 2. John Paul does not.
And then the bouncer at the door, she never gets a name, but she's kind of very present through the rest of the issues. So.
Yeah, they make it seem like she may come back as a recurring character, or at least she's sort of, yeah. I mean, Justice at this point doesn't have a lot of personalities. He's kind of like the Terminator, marching around, you know, taking care of things, and he's got some inner monologue, but you know, not much going on the outside. So we kind of.
So you do need to pair him with someone, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so they let him in because, you know, Dragon Lady, the girl bouncer at the door, kind of thinks he looks interesting. So she basically lets him in and starts leading him around. Hoyt Pittman is dressed up as a chauffeur, pretending, you know, to be leading Becky Chambers, who's totally not a cop, but some rich lady who wants to buy drugs or something. So he's kind of wait outside, but he's eyeballing Justice, thinking that something's up, because of course there's a huge guy with a silver mullet and weird sunglasses and a trench coat. Maybe something.
And Justice had really taken off when he saw Rebecca. So
that's right. So he mentions her aura a few times as being sort of exceptional and reminding him of his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. So we don't really see it, but he describes it as a pure or good. So
yeah, which is rare. It's something he does not usually come across. All right, so in the following pages, you know, we get some more criminals. So there's a lot of criminal corporate bad guys to keep track of in this one. There really is.
I swear it was like one whole page of nothing but the people who appeared in this issue. Yeah. And that's putting like the thugs together into one line. It's
right. So I do like Chango Villalobos. Oh yeah. And Marty.
Marty Roth, Shango Villalobos, and Nestor, the gun happy, trigger happy assistant.
Yeah, he doesn't do much other than hold kind of a cartoonish looking gun. Yeah, so it takes a little decoding. Shango is not happy with Marty. Marty is apparently the showrunner at the factory, right? So this is kind of his deal. They're talking about a traitor who is our Jean-Paul policeman undercover. So they've figured out that he was in fact an undercover officer, but Marty wanted to flip him. So he thinks he's convinced him to really kind of, set up Rebecca Chambers and make her take the fall, and they're going to profit. And there's quite a bit of convoluted scheming going on. Shango is having none of it. He's just ready to off Marty and is not very happy about it altogether. But yeah, Marty is actually really well developed. He's got a whole philosophy where he's an ex-hippie, and all of his friends think he's gone evil and corporate and criminal, but really he's trying to corrupt the system from the inside. And so the whole thing is dry rot and collapses, and it's pretty impressive. I like Marty.
Yeah, it's layers to this that you wouldn't expect, but
right,
the drug dealer and the owner or something.
All those layers can easily be vaporized, though. Easily vaporized. So yeah,
there is a lot of talk about corruption, and that Justice always sees corruption around him.
Yep. Yeah, so he's working his way up the chain, essentially, from the low thug goons who just hit some poor old lady with a pipe to a slightly more organized drug dealer to now he's all the way. He's just in issue 1, but he's working on his third group of ne'er-do-wells. Yeah, so Conquest Dynamics gets name dropped again, so we get some connections to the evil people who know about Justice, and then all the disco light and the people dancing reminds our hero Tensen, who we get a little bit of name here, Tensen. Got a little flashback remembrance of a love scene interrupted by evil red-eyed glowing ninjas. Is that fair?
Yeah, ninjas. Yeah, I
assassins.
The way they write it, I didn't know if it was Tensen or Ten-Sen.
Yeah.
So until later. So
I don't
part of the mystery for now, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think we get the name again either. So, but yeah. So
yeah, he was in another place, another dance, another world with his girlfriend Chandra.
Yes. And we're not really sure what happens after that. So it looked like he's been successfully ambushed. Right? He doesn't have time to defend himself. And they kind of incapacitate him. But then he kind of wakes up, and she introduces herself, the dragon lady, kind of wakes her up, or wakes him up. So yeah,
it's your friend, the dragon lady.
I like that. It's a solid nickname. She's owning it. But yeah, not sure if this is what they were talking about before, of like they were trying to kill him and they were unsuccessful and they accidentally sent him to New York, or if that's just an unrelated assassination. I don't know, but maybe we'll get some more backstory later. All right, so he's trying to track down Rebecca Chambers. He's kind of, daydreaming and losing sight of his justice-related mission to find this woman because of her impressively pure, perfect aura. So he's got high standards. She's currently meeting with Jean-Pierre, who are talking about, him being a double agent, basically. And while he's confident that the cameras that are seeing him are not recording audio, he's way wrong. And our good friend Shango Villalobos, man, I messed it up. He bends for no one, and Nestor, who's good at standing there and shooting, basically starts shooting up the nightclub to try and kill Justice. So, we get a nice, I'm unfamiliar with these types of weapons, but clearly they are. So he fires wildly into the crowd, maybe kills one poor guy who looks a little bit like Archie from Betty and Veronica, because Justice couldn't get the shields up in time to deflect it. So we go.
Yeah, so the shield is, it's not just a small thing. It can be full body sized, but he has to put it in the right place at the right time, I guess. So
Yep. So he protects himself, protects the Dragon Lady. Chambers and Jean Paul kind of dive over the bar for cover. They're sort of safe. Then we get to it's impossible to make the defense perfect, and I elect to risk dropping the shield to use the sword. Right. So he uses maybe he can't use them both at the same time, is what we're getting here. But one more goon has been vaporized. So sorry, guy with the gun. Kill count goes up 1. And so big mistake.
Need like a sound effect for this. It's going on. Ching.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant for this cool laser hand.
That would also be good. But no, just like everyone who gets murked or whatever you call it.
Like a radio DJ, I'll press a button and it says, "You got murked."
Well, if we had video, I could the Grand Theft Auto wasted.
Oh yeah. Probably wouldn't be a copyright infringement or anything. But yeah, so Jean Paul, who is a police officer / maybe a double agent. We're not sure how many sides he's playing, but it doesn't.
Or
really
a triple
matter.
agent. Yeah, his conversation was just like, oh, they knew I was an agent, so I let them turn me, and so now I'm working.
Yeah.
Who are you working for?
Justice isn't having any of it though. He picks up a gun and he's got a kind of angry James Bond looking face going on. But in the next panel, he's vaporized. So, Justice takes out an undercover police officer, but he had the evil aura.
Well, at first I've seen what the weapon can do, and I act without hesitation.
Yeah.
And you're like, did he scan him or did he just blow him away?
It's true. We didn't actually get to see him on panel scanning.
Yeah,
so he talks about it later.
A couple pages later, we'll get.
He's like, oh, that guy's evil too.
Yeah, it was. I could sense a lot of evil coming from him. I don't know.
Like, but he also vaporized a baby. He's like, evil baby. Yeah, totally green aura. What am I gonna do? Gotta vaporize it. So I like him. I like Justice. He doesn't mess around.
I'm. Yeah, go.
Yeah, he's a good guy Terminator, basically. So whatever your powers, you just wasted them on the wrong man. So all we got left here is Marty's still alive and Chango is still alive a little bit. So he buys himself some time by throwing his Cobra Commander looking dagger cane and kind of deflecting Justice's sword laser beam, but makes kind of a risky move. So he jumps through this overlook window. So his eye in the sky kind of club zone where they just happen to be now, I guess at this point, jumps and is kind of hanging from the rafters quite literally, but fairly confident that he's going to survive.
Yeah, this is crazy looking, but reasonable art on this. I mean, you get a good clear sense of what he's doing and how he's trying to get away. So there we go.
Yeah. So Justice then gets stopped by the police, right? So Rebecca Chambers is still alive. Hoyt Pittman shows up, pulling a gun on Justice. So him and the Dragon Lady are kind of stopped there now.
Dragon Lady's pretty flipped out by everything.
So
once the guy died in her arms, she's like, "Oh, this is I used to think a little violence and something was fun, but now I'm, and she's getting close to hysterical, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they do a good job with all the side characters here, and all the writing. Kind of, they're not just standing there in the scenery. What happened to the fun? And you get the impression that she kind of liked the dangerous, risky nightclub lifestyle until people started getting vaporized. Then it got a little too real. So yeah, so they
Great.
confirm. Oh, go ahead.
Very identifiable, I guess.
Yeah. I like real characters in comic books when it's not just only the superheroes talking. And
that's true. Yeah, you were saying once before that all the characters around the superheroes used to be much more important, and now if you don't have powers, superheroes don't have the time of day for you. Yeah,
right. So maybe we'll rescue you, but that's about it. But justice is not finished yet, right? So although he's kind of cornered, he uses his shield to kind of knock our poor Hoyt Pitman out of the way. This kind of chaos. Chango's still hanging from the rafters, trying to push open one of those classic top of the building skylights that people are always falling through in movies and such. Not foreshadowing or anything like that, but for some reason Marty, our anarchistic ex-hippie trying to take down the system his own way, is waiting for him at the top, and he was not really happy with having been messed with so much. So he grabs the guy's cane, kind of stabs him, drops him from the ceiling. So Chango's gone, but not vaporized. And even Marty there is kind of excited. He's kind of gotten away with it. There's nobody left that's going to pin anything on him. But Justice is standing up there, right behind him, kind of up high with his trench coat billowing in the wind like Batman. And he can't talk himself out of that anyway. So Marty's got the bad aura too, clearly. Justice vaporizes him for his last kill. And then that's what we've got. So we end with Justice, Tenson. We'll learn more about him later, and I'm sure again held up by the police, who are justifiably not too happy that he murdered a police officer. And then our last panel, we get maybe the corporate overlord father back in Baja California. Damon, he's struck New York, one of our mid-level places. He's on the trail. Perfect time to unleash the hounds.
Unleash the hounds.
So, but the next issue is not the hounds, but Land of Other Shadows. So maybe they're shadow hounds.
Unleash, the next issue could have just been Unleash the Hounds. That would have been good.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
I mean, let me go back a page or two here, where the guys on the roof, Marty and Chango, are talking, and they're trying to explain what had happened, because it was like each of them was listening in on the other, and they're like all setting each other up. And Chango just says, "Whatever your plan, it was too complex to work." It's like, yeah, that's kind of how you feel after this. Yeah. I still, am kind of ambiguous about whether John Paul was whose side he ultimately was on, and he picked up the gun, and what was he going to do with it?
Yeah,
you're not really ever 100% certain.
He did have a menacing look on his face. But yeah, there's a lot of John Paul and I counted on you checking up on us. He played his dialogue to infuriate you into action. It's like, yeah, he knew he was going to listen in, and
yeah, I mean the whole So I mean, it's a kind of self-aware that it's a little bit more than it's a little convoluted, but in the end, everyone's dead. So I guess
all your motivations just end up as plasma and molecules.
I should say that Rebecca and Hoyt are not just cops, they're FBI agents. So Department of Justice is kind of name dropped a couple of times. And
That's
So
fun.
that sort of justice, is it him? Is it them? And so there's a little something more with that.
Maybe they'll form a league together or something.
Then, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. My body count was 9 total, of which Justice killed 7.
Yeah, I got Justice killing 7. Yeah, that's how I counted it. So I think we're accurate.
I think, yeah, someone, let's see. The
Because
So-
Justice didn't kill Archie, nor did he kill the old lady in the beginning. That would make 9.
Oh yeah, that's right. I missed one because Chango fell down, right?
Oh,
from
that's
the-
true. Yeah.
Marty killed him.
Yeah.
So-
So I guess there would have been 10, but we're not 100% sure that the woman in the beginning is dead or just like horrible.
I'm gonna say she was just it. So the beginning is real. Well, a lot of this is one part Death Wish.
Yeah.
You have that sort of decaying New York.
God,
This looks
Death
more like
Wish.
the Bronx in a couple of movies I've seen,
Yeah.
where it's like just a hell zone warscape. You know, crazy thug punks. You know, kill you for your checkbook or whatever.
Those are the
Um,
movies that have poisoned my brain. So now anytime I go into like a crummy part of the city, I feel like I'm going to get murdered because I watched so many of those movies in the 80s.
And I mean, this wasn't entirely out of fantasy. The 60s to 70s, New York was a dump, apparently. And so by the 80s, things are picking up, but it's still, where they put this is in the Lower East Side, which was supposedly kind of a rough part, but I remember going through there and not really thinking too much of it at the time. So I don't know, but
Yeah. Yeah, we get some nice little New York kind of spotting too. And even the beginning, and they say it's like, despite growing attention from real estate speculators, it can still be a cheap area to live, right? So it's kind of like a cheap rundown, excuse me,
so
affordable
yeah, like I
place in New
said,
York
Death
City.
Wish is like the first thing that comes to me when because these complete dirt bags you run into and that you just you immediately want to see off the streets, and Justice doesn't sort of wrap them up and take them away or leave them in spider webbing for the cops to come.
Right.
You're gone. So like as you pointed out, it's his first power isn't these like super weapons, it's the aura that he can literally see who's good and who's evil. It's all
it's pretty
very
black and white.
Old Testament judgment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's very literally judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah.
What this actually kind of reminded me of was because there's a sort of a fantasy element where he's come from another place, another world or something.
Right.
And it's kind of a reverse of a fantasy called Sword and Planet, the thing where John Carter suddenly is on Mars and he becomes a great warrior. This guy comes from some alien fantasy land to Earth and plays by that same set of rules. There'd been a few like Conan's where Conan comes to the present day that probably didn't look too much different than this.
Okay.
And it plays by a fantasy or Western moral code where this guy is more than happy to play judge with whatever he comes across.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that he still somehow has like an innocent quality because of this. He's like, I'm an alien. I don't know what's going on here, but I know what I got to do.
Yeah. If he starts hallucinating colors, though, the world's in trouble.
We are.
Right? That aura system breaks down a little bit.
I wouldn't depend on it forever, but it's like you say, it's not that he's unfeeling, but he doesn't have the play by the same set of rules as anyone else does, which makes, you know, it a little harder to sort of be horrified by what he's doing.
Right.
Um,
And yeah, you know, we all kind of root for the bad guys to get what's coming to them. And
they're pretty scummy dudes. It helps also that they're just sort of piles of ash, like it's more like a video game kill.
yeah,
Because
so
sometimes like someone's
didn't
arm
mark
or
out.
leg will be sticking out of the cone of death, and you're like, is there just going to be like an arm sitting in a pile of ash in a panel? But
Crispy,
no,
deep
it's
fried
just,
bad guy.
yeah, it's just a clean kill.
Yeah, it's interesting that you got. Totally didn't think of Death Wish. I was thinking Terminator because of that opening, which I looked up quickly, and it was 1984, so definitely could have been inspired. But Death Wish makes total sense. Good old Charles Bronson.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a bunch of like Italian ripoff versions of that I saw or something that where yeah, everything's look even worse and scummier because it's like the cheapest movies ever made.
Right.
But yeah, I think the first Death Wish was kind of more had more character to the guy, and he was like a liberal who got mugged so much that he got a gun and went crazy. But the later ones were just like, here's a guy who gets hassled by these, you know, dirt bags, and oh, he'll just shoot him. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the people forget how to write for sequels, I think. Like, what did people like? They liked it when Charles Bronson shot dudes. They're like, all right, more of that. Oh, time for some paranormals that have been displaced. Perhaps 7 of them.
do you have a grade for Justice?
Oh, grades, yeah. I liked it on the first read. I like it more talking through it. It's a fun setup. They do a good job with the characters. The art's decent. You know, I'll give it my higher new universe mark of an A- for now, I think.
I really like the writing. Again, Archie Goodwin gives you a good story. The art like I'm not sure, it's not like inconsistent, like one page looks like one guy and the next page looks like another guy, but it's also not very developed. So
Yeah.
I'll take it down to my B+. But for whatever reason, this one really grabbed me. I remember really liking it when I first got it. I still quite enjoy. Yeah.
Speaks to your inner Charles Bronson.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of mysteries in it. You know, who is this guy? Where did he come from and everything? And
yeah, we don't have the main bad guy kind of squared away yet.
so it leaves you hanging with several interesting key components. So tune in next time.
Yeah.
So let's move along to the last of the new universe titles. This is DP7, and as we'll discover from the title page inside, DP is Displaced Paranormals. The cover is actually very interesting. Of all of these, it's the one that sort of looks more familiar now, because I've seen it several times in the movie poster for The Usual Suspects, came out much later. Right. But it's the characters from this group that we'll meet in a minute, all up against a police lineup. So they're all standing in against a blank background with the heights and sort of in a spotlight. And you can see 7 different people there, all with a variety of male, female, big and small. And we'll meet them in a second. So yeah, I'd sent you a something I found that was earlier than this, which was from the comic book Love and Rockets, or at least a collection of them
Okay.
that had come out a couple years before this. But I don't know if this was like just a design that had been used from something previous, like a record album I didn't remember or something.
Right. The police lineup look is pretty classic, but yeah, where did it come from?
So when I see it, I always think of DP7, but that's just me.
Well, I will just assume that they invented it, and it's just another reason to enjoy the new universe.
There are very few of us, but we're in high positions in the
Yes.
media.
We have a lot of
Possibly
power and
banks.
influence, unseen ways.
So DP7, the Displaced Paranormal 7, and we open on the title page, and this story is just called The Clinic. It's created by Mark Gruenwald and Paul Ryan, and Gruenwald was the writer, Ryan the penciler. Inker was Romeo Tengal, who I'd seen do some, I think Teen Titans, New Teen Titans in the 80s or early 90s. He's just inking. Paul Ryan has passed away actually just maybe less than 5 years ago. He had a long career, and one of the last things he was doing was like daily comics for, I think, Phantom,
Okay.
that the purple guy. He has a very clean style. I always enjoyed. It's not super dynamic, but it's very easy to see what's going on. Gives characters a lot of individuality and good expression range. So anyway, we open in Winnebago County, somewhere in Wisconsin. And according to the map, that is the county that has Oshkosh.
Oh,
So
we know another
it's-
fellow chemists from around there.
yeah, it's around there. I only
These
wish
counties
it
can
would
be
put
pretty
them
big.
right in the thick of the action, but
Mhm.
our friends are not, I think, in that town. So there's a large guy being brought into a hospital emergency room, and we meet one of the doctor there. We find out later is a third-year resident, is a young, clean-cut looking guy called Randy. And he's talking with a coworker, and some emergency people bring in a guy who is huge. This guy is, I don't know, 50% taller than everyone else in the room
Yeah.
and covered in muscle. And they say, I've never seen a build like this on anyone, not Schwarzenegger, not Hulk Hogan, no one. And you see the guy is covered in hair, except he's got a huge beard now, and he's bald on top. So it's sort of a like massive testosterone end product, I guess.
Yeah.
And so his girlfriend had found him in a apartment, passed out with a lot of painkillers or something, and everyone assumes he's been on steroids or something to turn himself into this. So the doctor's his vital signs are unstable. Nurse, prepare the NG tube. Asterisk nasogastric. And then
Doctors and their abbreviations.
This was years before ER became a popular show, and I guess we all learned medical terminology at that point.
Right.
So Randy has been working on him for a while, and the guy seems to be clearing up. And his name is David Landers. But all of a sudden he wakes up and he throws a guy across the room. This is a little cartoonish,
Yeah.
but the guy, we assume, isn't hurt too badly. 2 or 3 other guys are trying to hold him down, but the guy is disoriented and is huge. He's the Hulk, basically. And Randy, the doctor, gets close to him, trying to trank him with a sedative, but he doesn't think he's going to be able to do anything. until he sees two black arms come out of his own chest that hold the guy down for a second. Then he sticks the needle in, gives him some Valium, and the guy is out. Randy doesn't know what the heck happened. He's like, "Did you see that?" And yeah, you just shot him full of Valium. It worked great. Oh, okay.
Yeah, nobody else seems to have noticed.
Yes, no one noticed. So later, Randy goes to see David. He introduces himself as Dr. O'Brien. You have quite a physique there. Take it you work out a lot. Nope, never. So he says the girl who found him was just a friend from work that works at a cheese company.
As they all do in Wisconsin.
Every single person. Yeah. So Randy has a very nice like non-committal answer to or response to everything. Everything David said, he's like, anyway, I did this, blah, blah, blah. Well, she told me you were out sick for the last week. And he says that they brought him a lot of groceries and he just sat in his house and grew, and that he was in constant pain and it was really killing him.
Really killing my dream of staying at home and doing nothing but eating. With the constant pain thing is kind of a killer.
He's a NEET, as they call it now. No education, something or training. Anyway.
Is that bodybuilder terminology?
No, it's some online thing. It's not incel, but it's NEET.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You might be hipper than me.
Okay. Were you taking any steroids? Nope. Went out last week, and the next day I woke up starving, and I was just getting hairier and stronger and feeling in constant pain. He feels like a complete freak, like he's embarrassed to be seen by people.
Yeah, he's not in a good way at this point.
He's a downer. Randy tries to pick him up a little, but then we cut to the next day. Randy is talking to Dr. Eastman, who's the head of the hospital, maybe, who's chewing him out. And I guess they're arguing over what they want to do with David, whether to like keep him there and maybe do their own studies on him. But Randy thinks that they can't really help him here, so maybe they should take him somewhere else. That would be more helpful to him, whether that gives them a publication or not. So the crusty old dean doctor yells at him.
Troubleshooters would have a field day with that guy.
Calls him, you're a maverick. You're not a team player. You better shape up, O'Brien. I'm not warning you again. I don't know. I mean, I met a lot of doctors, and this is all a little, anyway.
They don't all see themselves as mavericks that know everything.
Yeah.
Or they do.
They'll never argue with them. No, I mean, I don't know. It's a little like corporate boardroom stuff more than like medical decision-making stuff, but I don't know. So Randy is pretty mad, and suddenly this shadow man just jumps out of him and is going to go strangle Dr. Eastman. So Randy shouts, "No," and the Eastman's like, "Shouting at me? That's it, O'Brien. Your days are numbered."
Hand in your badge. Oh wait, you're a doctor. Oh crap.
Hand in your doctor badge. So
you
then
have to give away his stethoscope, I guess, instead of the gun.
Yeah, sure. The shadow, this like three-dimensional shadow, it's kind of I keep thinking it's like a star field on it as well. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
It comes back and then it just goes inside Randy, and then he is reliving what just happened from this other point of view. So we see that shadow man figure records like the video and audio of whatever it sees, and brings it back to you, and then through touch gives you the sense, whatever it had experienced. So it's a good way of sort of communicating information. It's not instantaneous, and it's but it's reliable, I guess. It's like having a remote sensor somewhere that'll tell you something that you have to go back and touch personally. So onward to the next night, Randy's in his house, and the TV is talking about the White event. And there'd been a month-long symposium on this mysterious phenomena. So we're at least a month out of the White event, and probably more so. Randy just ignores that completely. He doesn't even notice that.
Seems unrelated.
So he notices a ad in the paper. This is the most 1986 thing I think we've seen so far. Getting your information from a newspaper ad.
Yes.
He sees that have strange things been happening to you lately? Has your own body become a stranger to you? Have you suddenly acquired unusual talents or disabilities? When no one else can help you, we can. The Clinic for Paranormal Research. And then an 800 number. And Randy's like, that sounds like me all over. So he calls them. And he's impressed. He's like, well, they didn't sound too crazy. I guess I'll give that a try tomorrow. Maybe I'll just drive up there. It's like 150 miles away from him. Doesn't say exactly which town, but the Wisconsin area.
Right.
So,
Cheeseville
he
or
falls.
something.
Hmm?
Cheeseville. Curd Town. I don't know. What do they name places up there?
I don't know. So he falls asleep, and the shadow goes out of him, and then it goes to find David, who's still depressed but kind of at his wit's end. But so the shadow touches him, feeds him the information, and then next thing you know, Randy's waking up. The shadows come back, and he sort of has memory of telling him about this, but then David's just on his doorstep saying, hey, let's go.
I'm ready.
So the next day they drive out there, and it's a nice sort of modern looking building. Very square. Maybe next to a mountain. Again, this is Wisconsin, so I'm not quite sure what they're thinking of that.
Yeah, some kind of giant cheese pile leftovers.
The guys go inside, and Randy's like, let's just use fake names and not tell them who we really are, just in case this is some scam or something.
Yeah,
they go in.
A nice bit of realism there, where he's not just like, all right, well, let's go off to the institute and tell him everything, and we can become superheroes. It's he's skeptical, he's worried.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't quite know what to make of it, but he knows there's something going on. And then, today you would have so many like insurance forms to fill out, and they'd like run your credit card and everything. So the chance of you showing up on someone's doorstep and being, I'm John Smith with just developed a power. So we meet a doctor, Dr. Semple, who is sort of an older woman, and she goes to talk to them both, and they describe what their issues are, and they ask what she can do, and she describes some of the other patients who we'll meet in a minute, and she says they've treated many cases like those and many more just as unique. So this, as unusual as your problems are, in the 3 months this clinic's been in operation, we've seen others equally extraordinary. So for 3 months, this has been going on, at least, and we may think that that's tied into the White event again.
Right.
This is where I was saying before, you have sort of power groups set up before the White event, So I don't know, it's kind of a fast development to suddenly have an institute, dedicated to this problem that just appeared 3 months ago.
I mean, they may have just been toiling away in obscurity, like hoping that they would find these superpowered people for years. They got the rich benefactor, it's like, it's going to happen. And then eventually it finally did. And he's like, oh, yeah, I was right all along.
Yeah. I think that's not too far off, actually, from the backstory. But
I mean, it's kind of like what the Russians were doing in Force too. It's kind of like,
yeah, Force definitely had there were some powers, but they were very weak and not very useful. And so after the White event, they became strong and controllable, possibly.
Right.
So, and she also refers to it as a paranormality. And I say there's not another institution. We're specialists in the field of paranormal permutations. So even though Randy and David's powers, we'll call them that, are completely different, they do sort of group them all together as just anything that's outside normal human parameters. So she offers to show them around, and there's a gymnasium, and we see several people we'll get to know in a minute, and several that we don't see again in this issue. So then they are assigned a group therapy. And Randy and David are both kind of psyched. They seem, positively impressed by this. And I think there's several groups in the clinic. So this is one group. And
Right.
There's other people around that we're not meeting at this point that are just sort of referred to. So we go to a group therapy, and this is a great way to just introduce people and have them show you their powers. Quickly, and it does a good job of it. So we first meet Charlie Beck, who was a co-ed dancer, and whose powers are she can stick to things or make things frictionless. And all of these people have trouble because their powers are new to them. They can't, they don't know what to do with them, or they activate without their will or something. And so they're causing all kinds of havoc around in their personal lives. And the people around them aren't too happy with it. There's a guy named Jeff who's constantly blurry because he's constantly moving fast. And he shows himself running faster than cars on the highway. He shows like switching chairs on people without them even having to get up. They're just poof, everything's flipped from one side of the room to the other. He snaps the towel a bit with David, who's so strong. You really don't want to do that.
Yeah, it took me a minute, but in looking again, our David, our huge guy, is sitting on cinder blocks in the beginning. So then when he swaps them out, he swaps them out for a folding chair, but he's so huge that he just crushes it instantly. So
yeah, it's like an aluminum folding chair. Like, yeah, you're right, cinder blocks. I thought it was like a ottoman or something, but yeah. Suddenly Charlie is sitting on the blocks, and David's on her aluminum chair that just crumples like foil. So let's see. The next one we meet is Scuzz. Everyone in school used to call me Scuzz. He's a high school dropout who's short for Dennis Kuczynski. And his power is he's exuding something that makes everything he touches decay or fall apart. So his clothes are going all the time, and he just disintegrates that aluminum ball that someone had just crushed. So every 2 days, whatever I'm wearing has more holes in it than Swiss cheese. In 3 days, I'm totally obscene. Okay. Lenore, who's a retired Latin teacher. So she's, I don't know, 60s, but she's totally covered head to toe. And so she's basically acts like an old woman. And she says that she noticed something strange on her skin, and then it started to sort of glow, and the glow touched people, it would put them to sleep. And so she tries a little bit of this on Jeff, the super speedy guy, and it slows him down to normal speed. So it's like, that's great. Then the last one we meet is Stephanie, who's a housewife, stay-at-home mother, I guess, of 3 kids, 3 very young kids. And she's talking about how she touches people and charges them up and maybe has slight healing. Just at that time, David's like, she excites me without touching me. And then 2 seconds later, muscle coming in, cramped. And she touches him then. And hey, what? That feels good. So
Pretty subtle there.
So positive, but he's like, oh, that's right, she has a husband and kids. Then we switch to the office of Philip Nolan Voigt, head of the clinic. And he's a sort of stuffy business looking man. And there's 3 people in medical outfits, orderlies or something. And they are Charn, Speck, and Heckbarth. And let's see, Ms. Speck is sort of a telepath. She's saying she's getting impressions from one of the guys in the group that they're watching on like a video camera. So she's a bit Diana Troy, I guess. And one of the other guys is doing some indoctrination, and the other one is a regulator. I guess we'll find out more about that later. And Voigt says to himself as these people are leaving, that I need to bolster the ranks of the agency in order to expand operations, and these clinics must meet the demand. So he says the clinics.
Yeah, there must be a bunch.
So what they've been talking about is like that some of the paranormals may be too weird to use for conventional undercover work, but even they might have their uses. So there's some sort of use that they want to put these people to. They segue into a montage, and for the next 3 weeks, all 7 of the people in that group session are working together and playing together and getting to know each other and getting along. And
volleyball,
Randy,
birthdays.
Yeah, cat scanners and volleyball games, and Stephanie feeling David's muscles.
Totally innocently.
Yeah, she has that like 80s headband aerobics outfit, which is pretty sweet.
Agreed.
But it seems everyone's seems good, but later David and Randy are talking again, and they're a little suspicious. They're like, this is going great, but no one ever asks us for payment, and they don't say when we can leave or anything. And although, so they talked to Lenore, who's maybe been there the longest, they said.
Yep.
And she says, yeah, it's weird. No one ever asked how we're going to pay for any of this. And everywhere else I went, that was their first thing they asked. I get the feeling the clinic makes its expenses some other way, but whenever I get inquired about it, all I got was nervous evasions. That night, Randy's falling asleep, and well, he's in bed, but he consciously sends out the shadow to try to scope out the situation. Come on out of there, you dark devil. And it thing still has a mind of its own, it seems. It's an interesting power because he doesn't have much control over it. So
yeah, he can create it. He can kind of tell it what to do, and it kind of listens, but it also sometimes just does what it wants or what it thinks he wants.
Yeah. subconscious. I don't know.
Or just pulls out someone's chair out from under them for no reason. You know?
Do some jokes later, yeah. So we cut to a monitor room where these three orderly types were monitoring the various DPs, and they're talking about basically they go to sleep and they'll be mentally manipulated somehow by one of the guys' powers, and they're complaining about Randy. That he's very resistant to this mind control that they seem to be running on him, and that they're kind of, you know, they're not all like that bad, but at least one or two of them are like, why don't you just, you know, screw them up so much that, you know, you have to put them back together later, and not very caring physician types. They want to just get rid of them. It's suddenly they notice that, you know, Randy's shadow isn't inside him, and so they immediately assume that it's right there, because one of the guys' chairs gets pulled out from under him, and he's like, oh, it was that shadow thing. Sound the alarm, let's go attack these guys. I'm gonna make sure O'Brien doesn't get to the others. If Voight doesn't like it, tough. Akbar's a mean guy. So the shadow gets back to Randy, and he relays the information about these people, watching them all the time. He sends it to go tell the others just as Hackbarth gets there, and he's kind of defenseless now. So Dave's room, Dave gets the message, and it's like, Randy's silent spook can't lie. It only passes on what it's experienced. So the next thing, David comes out and smashes through the door while Hackbarth is carrying the unconscious Randy. Hackbarth I know, makes David sick in his stomach, cramps.
Yeah.
He puts him right down. Scuzz comes around the corner, and he says, tells him to go get the others. And Scuzz had disintegrated the locks on his room. That's how he got out so quickly. So now all of them, Jeff, Charlie, Stephanie, Dave, Scuzz, and Lenore are talking in the hall, and most of them are actually like, the clinic's been pretty good to us. Are we sure we want to run away? Where would we go? We don't have anything else. But as Dave puts it, it's one another that makes this place for us, not the management. You know? So just then, some other orderlies come. Like, they're non-powered people we haven't seen before, but they've got guns, probably tranquilizer guns. Charlie makes them slip, and let's see, Lenore then puts them to sleep. And all of them sort of say, this proves it. This place is not on the up and up. It's each other we owe our loyalty to, not the clinic. Let's find Randy and get out of here.
Yeah.
They do that. The Shadow Man leads them to Randy and Hackbarth, he just starts putting them all down. His power is pretty strong. He calls
he's tough.
Physiological regulator. He has total control over the bodily processes of everyone around him. So everyone's down, but somehow David gets up, keeps going, and smacks him down. The next panel, he says, with Hackbarth unconscious, his control over us stopped. So I guess Hackbarth was just unconscious, even though he got a huge smack in the head from like the strongest guy in the world.
Didn't break his neck.
Did not break his neck. So Randy's woken up at this point, and Antibody gets him up to speed, and he says, yes, thank you for coming for me. Let's all get out of here. And this convinces us the clinic has evil designs on all of us. Where will we go? What will we do? We're gonna have to take our chances out there. We were all alone with our problems before we came here. Now we've got one another. Somehow together, we're all gonna make it. So the next, The Hunted.
Dun, dun, dun.
They seem to be headed into the woods.
If I remember right, it doesn't go smoothly from there.
I'm not sure how, yeah. So this was, as I say, a lot of stuff, a lot of story, and even with the ways to get out a lot of exposition, like the group therapy session. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
And this definitely does, you do get a much clearer sense of the personalities involved, their names, their powers, all of that. Even if they don't all use it in combat, they're very well realized characters, I'd say. The clinic is also well set up as a antagonist force. You have other paranormals there. You have whatever nefarious purposes they're using them for.
Which we don't know.
And they've all been studied and manipulated for a while, so who knows what that's done to them.
Right. It could be a squad of brainwashed paranormals right around the corner.
Right around. So I think as the new universe develops, you see more, the word paranormal became sort of the word for all the white event products. Instead of superheroes, people are paranormals.
Right, not mutants either.
And let's see. What do I think? So it does still seem very X-Men. This was also what always the TV show Heroes reminded me of.
All right. It's kind of X-Men if Professor was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's gathered them all together to train them and manipulate them. Well, like I guess Professor Xavier did that too, but
sort of, yeah. But
less for
Tony
questionable
New England.
reasons.
Yeah, the overall, I really enjoy the writing style. Mark Gruenwald, he passed away in the mid-90s.
Yep.
So he was very well regarded. Like people in the field all had nice things to say about him. No one's like, here's my story of how Gruenwald yelled at me at a convention, and like a lot of other people I could name.
Made me cry once.
So he, and he was really fundamental in Marvel Comics with establishing a sense of continuity, apparently. So it's interesting he wanted to branch out with this entirely new group in this entirely new universe, but while the others had, there were several, like Archie Goodwin seemed to have his hand in 2 or 3 titles, and same with Tom DeFalco. This is Gruenwald's only one, so it's sticks out a bit, I guess, compared to the others. I mean, it's a comparably mature title in the sense of it doesn't feel like cartoony, but
yeah,
the sort of dialogue you get isn't quite what you get in any of the others either. So I think it has a nice singular feel to it. Compared to the other team books, yeah, it's definitely better than Kickers. More, more grown up. Has a the troubleshooters. These are like a very broad range of ages, ethnicities. I guess very in several ways they're a good like diverse group, and so you'll sort of see the dynamics of them as they go along. With the Cyforce were all young,
yeah,
and they sort of had a more unifying principle with the need to form the Cyhawk. You needed 4+1, and they had to stay together. DP7 are just they work well together, but are they going to be all the same 7 all the time? It seems a little more chaotic.
We shall
And,
see. Yeah, I think they did a nice job with the sort of realism aspect. I think that that they have been trying to do with the new universe too. Is like again, no costumes. They're what would happen if all of a sudden people started developing strange powers. Well, somebody might start getting them together, right? And rather than just rounding them up and capturing them like in Force or killing them, someone might be trying to use them for their own purpose, right? So they all get together. They're not like a fighting force. Like they don't do a very good job defending themselves, even though they have impressive powers. They've been using them and playing volleyball. They haven't been training for combat, kind of thing. So yeah, I think you get some kind of hints of super powered team combat and such, but in a little bit more of a grounded way, if you can, for people who have all crazy superpowers.
Yeah, you also don't have a death count in this. I don't think anyone died.
That's no, that breaks convention.
So yeah,
So a college T-shirt. There's a lot of Ohio State shirts going on in this one.
It's a so it's not whatever grim and gritty. It's just sort of a TV show level of action, but not violence, if you know what I mean.
Right. Might show a butt every once in a while, but nothing too crazy.
So let's see. So it might be a little. So at least 3 months plus another month that they're there. I don't know.
Yeah, so a lot of time has passed for this one.
Yeah,
potentially well ahead of a book like Night Mask, where he got his powers right there during the White event, as we saw it live happening. Kind of. Same with Kickers. So we had a football season after his gaining the powers. So yeah, timeline wise, it's kind of hard to keep track of where everyone might be.
Yeah, we'll start seeing people crossing over, and
I think Starbrand has the first crossover in his second issue.
Yeah, tune in next week for our first crossover.
Spider-Man shows up. What? He's in everything.
Let's see. What else do we have? It's I like that he's Randy's a doctor, but he's not like, he's a little more down to earth than most of the like medical people you'll see, and he's not very stuffy. He's just sort of
doesn't have all the answers. Maybe a little bit of a maverick.
Yeah, it's a bit of a maverick. Okay. Yeah.
I think the guy almost had a point though, too. Like the head of the hospital he was arguing with was talking about like, like if you didn't take it on your own to be the only one managing it, right? If you'd opened it up, so the rest of the hospital can kind of talk and such. But maybe he was just protecting poor David from a million more people asking him if he took steroids.
Did you take steroids? Are you sure you didn't take steroids? Okay, I didn't go anywhere with him. You do it.
I do like the 1-800 number for the paranormal place. They ended up as 1-800-555-NORM. I didn't try that number. We should try that number. Do all 555s officially not work because that's the movie one then?
Yeah, there's like what 1212 is the information or something.
Yeah.
Norm. Yeah.
Bunch of norms.
Normal. Yeah.
It's just people named Norm. I don't know what you're talking
about. No, I guess this was after Cheers was on, so everyone would know that. Hold on.
Yeah. I don't think that's the correct norm. But yeah, DP7 did a nice job in kind of ending our new universe. We got some nice references to White Event, got a whole super team kind of starting to form. Yet another kind of questionable corporate entity, maybe taking advantage of powered people.
Yeah, so Cyforce had the Russians as one, having their own Cyforce, and this sort of rogue CIA agent forming a counter to that. And this one, we don't have like a foreign threat, but it's possible, you know, we have these sort of independent or possibly government related, you know, power groups that are trying to put together collections of teams of paranormals, I guess.
Yep. So some of the behind the scenes people that seem to know what's going on, whereas most of our title characters don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, I guess we got that from both of these today. That
Yeah.
There's more mysteries when you're done than when you start.
Yep. But that's a good first issue then, right? So I think you had some good questions about, you know, talking about overall looking at the issue ones, but I think we might be going a little long. So maybe we should save that for our issue twos.
Alrighty, let me just point out the locations of all these issue ones we had.
Oh, great.
As I said, there it wasn't as New York centric, but we still had 3 out of 8 took place in New York City or around it. Kickers, Merc, and Justice all had at least most of their story there. Yeah, Merc, okay, South Pacific, but DP7, we're in the Midwest with Wisconsin. Starbrand, not too far away in Pittsburgh. Spitfire up in Boston. Cyforce in San Francisco, and Night Mask was what, DC?
Sounds about right.
They were close to the University of Maryland, which is where his dad's lab was.
Right. This is mediocre non-MIT scientist, non-Caltech.
Yeah, Randy in DP7 also doesn't brag about his medical school all the time or his great grades in his undergrad. But yeah, so it's reasonably spread around for 1980s America.
Yeah,
I think we're getting a little more geographic diversity. That's cool.
Yeah, almost everything's in the Northeast, but a little dalliance into California. And our evil oh shoot, what's the name of that place I need to look for a job at? Conquest Dynamics, of course, is in California too. So if they're thinking,
Dynamics makes it really sound like a military industrial complex thing, but it also seems to have a strong drug dealing component.
Maybe they're also trying for some sort of conquest. It's like, no, my name's just Conquest.
It's a little on the nose, I know, but
well, if that's like, say he's got an alien name of something, you know, unpronounceable, even though all the aliens look like white dudes, you know, he comes to Earth, he starts, you know, well, I got to start my evil organization, you know, I'll call myself something Conquest. Right? So obvious, they'll never see it coming.
A good, yeah, hide in plain sight. That's a good strategy.
Yes. All right, so we should rate DP7, our somewhat consistent and somewhat random rating scale.
I'll take it up to an A-. I like the art style and the writing style, and I don't have a criticism for it really. So
yeah, I'll be boring and agree. The art's better in this one than Justice for sure. But yeah, his story is just as good. Yeah, does a nice job introducing. I really like Scuzz, but he shines more later, I think.
Yeah, Scuzz is the only teenager now, so in this group. So
I feel like him and Wayne from Force would be a fun duo. Like they'd probably, of course, hate each other, but they could tear everything down together.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, Justice will have to we'll get build up more people around him. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, Rebecca thinks he murdered her coworker, so got a bit of a bridge to cross there.
Maybe they'll get over it quickly.
Some of those do have like an action movie logic to them, so yeah. Let's move on and keep the story going.
Or in like the end of every issue is like, hey, remember when you murdered my partner for no reason?
It's like, oh, are we on that again? Ouch. Yeah. So let's see. So next week,
Starbrand again, Starbrand issue 2, and Spitfire and those rascally troubleshooters issue 2.
we'll be looking for you right back at the spinner rack.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just gonna keep using spinner rack in everything until one of them catches on.
I'll work on my death sound. You've been murked. All right, signing off.